Yesterday, the weight finally became too much. The pressure of holding in what they truly feel for you, day after day, night after night, cracked something sacred within their soul. And though they tried to mask it with a smile, the silence between their words screamed with sorrow too heavy for human ears to catch. They've carried this ache in secret, not because they didn't trust you, but because they thought protecting you meant pretending they were okay. But yesterday was different. The moment they saw your face, or perhaps just heard your name mentioned in passing, a storm rose inside them that could no longer be ignored. Archangel Michael says that moment was recorded in the spirit. The angels didn't just witness it, they wept with them, because what was once just longing has now transformed into torment. Their heart beats for you, but the wound of distance, whether physical or emotional, is now tearing into their spiritual core. There was a message they tried to write but deleted, a voice note they recorded, then erased. They stared at your picture for 27 minutes unmoving. The world around them carried on, but time inside them stopped, and something holy inside them shattered, not into anger, but into a cry that reached the gates of heaven. God says, I heard that cry. It pierced through the layers of denial they've worn like armor. It broke through the shell of strength they thought they had to maintain. And now, their love for you, once hidden like a buried jewel, is burning its way to the surface, begging to be seen. You may not feel it in your bones yet, but there's a spiritual wave crashing toward you, fueled by everything they couldn't say. They dreamt of you last night, but it wasn't peaceful. They were trembling in their sleep. Your name left their lips more than once, and what they whispered was a mixture of desperation and apology. Their surroundings no longer feel safe. They've grown afraid, not of you, but of what might happen if they never get the chance to truly express what they feel. And that fear is now turning into action, even if it starts small. A message, a visit, a letter. But whatever form it takes, it carries the weight of something holy. Archangel Michael says, they are spiritually marked with your name. Heaven has stitched you into their destiny. No matter how far they've tried to run, every road has curved back toward your soul, even the detours, even the distractions. Everything they tried to use to forget you has only reminded them of you. But something happened yesterday, a divine timing trigger. Someone showed them a picture of you, or they found something of yours, or they saw a post, a sign, a name that echoed yours. And in that moment, something snapped, not in pain, but in purpose. They knew, they absolutely knew, you are not a passing chapter. You are the center of the book. God says, their soul is ready to come clean. But this moment is fragile. What happens next depends not just on them, but also on the unseen spiritual forces surrounding this connection. Because love this deep, this ancient, never travels alone. It is always accompanied by divine orchestration and by demonic resistance. You are being pulled into a spiritual battle, not by your choice, but by your calling. Because this isn't just love, it's legacy. And that's why the angels are trembling. That's why heaven is on alert. Because what unfolds next will determine whether this sacred connection blooms into a miracle or shatters into irreversible silence. But listen closely now. They were with someone yesterday who noticed the shift. Someone who's been watching them quietly. That third party suspects the truth, and instead of helping, they may try to block what's unfolding. That presence is subtle, but dangerous. A voice in your person's ear, a manipulator, a distraction dressed as comfort. Archangel Michael says, "Do not fear." Their grip is weakening, but timing is everything. That's why this message found you right now, because the next 48 hours are spiritually explosive. You must stay spiritually awake. Their heart is trembling toward you. Their voice is almost ready. Their soul is breaking free. Heaven is holding its breath, because when they move toward you this time, it won't be halfway. It will be real, risky, raw, and unstoppable. The moon trembled behind torn clouds last night. Wind pressed against windows like ghostly hands. Somewhere not far from you, they sat in darkness, alone, not because they wanted to be, but because their spirit no longer had the strength to perform for the world. Their silence was not emptiness, it was mourning. They mourned the version of themselves that tried to move on. They mourned the moments they could have spent with you, but wasted in pride, fear, or distraction. Last night wasn't just another sleepless night. It was a spiritual reckoning. The angels saw it. And what happened within them shook the heavens. Archangel Michael says, they are spiritually collapsing under the weight of unspoken love. Their chest felt heavy. Their pulse raced. There was a moment around 20:11 a.m. when their hands began to shake. They were overwhelmed with a knowing, a spiritual thunder that said, I am losing something sacred. That something was you. They paced their room. They stepped outside for air, but the night was cold, not from the wind, but from absence, your absence. The very one they tried to silence has now become the loudest voice in their life. You echo in their bones. Your memory beats in their bloodstream, and they are no longer strong enough to fight it. God says, I allowed the silence to stretch this far for a reason, because only when their world grew quiet could they finally hear my truth. And my truth is this: you are their mirror, their missing rib, their spiritual partner. I created this connection not for comfort, but for calling. And now, their spirit has been reawakened. They reached for their phone last night, 3 times. But fear stopped them. Fear of rejection. Fear of it being too late. Fear that you've moved on. Yet the urge was so strong. Their fingers hovered above your name, trembling. That's because the Holy Spirit stirred inside them, whispering, Go now, speak now, before it's truly over. They didn't send the message, but the prayer they released was louder than any words. They cried out, not with language, but with tears, with sighs, with groans too deep for words, and the angels recorded every one of them. You may have felt it, a strange wave of emotion, a heaviness in your chest, a sudden chill. That was the spiritual shockwave. It reached you because your souls are still connected. Archangel Michael says, even while apart, your bond has never broken. You were forged in divine fire. You are tethered through spiritual threads. Not even betrayal, time, or distance can cut. But the enemy knows this. That's why he attacks in silence. That's why he feeds your doubts at 3 a.m., hoping you'll give up before the breakthrough. Last night, your person almost gave up. But then something happened. A whisper in the wind, a dream, a sudden image of you, standing in light, arms open, eyes forgiving. It shattered them. Their tears turned to trembling. Their trembling became prayer. And in that holy moment, heaven flooded their spirit with one instruction. Do not lose them again. God says, I've seen their resistance weaken. I've seen their pride burn to ash. And now I'm igniting something new in them. Bravery. For what's about to unfold will require it. This is not just a return. It's a reckoning. A truth-telling. A fall to the knees kind of confession. The type of moment that only happens once in a lifetime. But beware, because darkness doesn't die quietly. There is a presence circling them. Someone close. Someone pretending to be a support, but actually sowing fear. This person thrives on delay, on confusion, on manipulation. They were active last night too, feeding your person lies. Don't reach out. They won't care. You're too late. They've changed. Archangel Michael says, that voice is not of God. That voice is an interruption sent to sabotage destiny. But it's losing power, because what happened last night spiritually severed a tie. The blindfold is slipping. Your person is beginning to see. See who was real, who was fake, who loved them and who used them. This clarity is dangerous to the enemy, but it is your salvation. Your person is preparing something. It may be a message, a visit, a spiritual offering, but it will not come dressed in perfection. It will come raw, honest, and trembling. And when it does, you'll know, because the air around you will shift. You'll feel the spiritual ground rumble. Your soul will recognize its missing half. God says, this is not the end. It is the trembling before the dawn. It is the storm before the return. And though it may hurt to feel them so close yet still silent, trust that I am working behind the veil. Their spirit shattered last night, but sometimes what breaks was never meant to last. I am rebuilding them for you. So be still now. Hold space in your heart, for the one who loves you can no longer contain it. And soon, very soon, their silence will end. Their trembling will turn into truth. And what they say will change everything. There is something you were not supposed to hear. Something whispered yesterday in a room where your name was never meant to be mentioned. But it was. And when it was spoken, the air changed. The person who spoke it did not carry love in their voice. They carried intention. And it was not pure. Someone close to your person, someone they trust, heard the truth last night. They saw the crack, the trembling, the regret, and they used it. They leaned in, not to comfort, but to control. because this person has seen what you mean to them, and instead of stepping aside, they've decided to interfere. Archangel Michael says, what happened last night in that conversation was not just gossip. It was a spiritual attempt to reroute your future. The enemy does not always scream. Sometimes he whispers through smiling faces, offering support while quietly planting seeds of confusion. And that's what's happening now. Your person's soul was vulnerable. Their pain was raw. And in that exposed moment, this third party began to twist the narrative. Why go back? They said. They've moved on. You deserve better. You already tried once. What makes you think it'll be different this time? But God was listening, and heaven's response was immediate. God says, I will not allow interference to win. I have assigned angels to your person's steps now. Their ears may have heard lies, but their spirit remembers truth. And even as that voice tried to poison their clarity, my spirit was rising within them, fighting back, reminding them that what you two have is holy, not disposable. This third party pretends to care, but what they fear most is your reunion. Because if you and your person come back together, their influence vanishes, their grip dissolves, their ability to manipulate gone. They are not fighting to protect your person's heart. They are fighting to protect their own power. And now a war has begun in the unseen. Archangel Michael says, they followed your person yesterday, maybe not physically, but spiritually, watching their actions, testing their words, listening carefully for any sign of breakthrough, then working to destroy it. This individual knows more than you think. They may even have seen the signs, the dreams, the way your person whispers your name when they think no one hears. This is a hidden opponent, not just an ex, not just a friend. It may even be someone in the family. That's why this situation feels so heavy, because the enemy crept in through familiarity, through trust. But what they didn't expect was that your person's heart would resist. Last night, your person pushed back, gently, but clearly. They didn't agree with what was said. They stayed quiet, but their silence spoke volumes. It was the beginning of their rebellion against control, a small flicker of freedom. The moment the chains began to weaken, God says, I am not silent in this matter. I'm revealing truths through dreams, through signs, through waves of emotion they can't explain. I am speaking louder than fear now, and though they may not have contacted you yet, the war inside them has already chosen sides. Their spirit is moving toward you, even as the world tries to drag them back. The third party felt it. They saw the change. That's why they're becoming more desperate, more emotional, more manipulative. They may even fake a crisis, send a guilt-ridden message, stir confusion. But do not be deceived. This is not love, it's fear in disguise. Archangel Michael says, there is a sacred path unfolding now. The heavens have already drawn the map. But your person must walk it without delay, because each moment wasted in doubt is a moment the enemy tries to exploit. That's why this message reached you today, because the hour is critical. What was whispered behind those closed doors will not stand. Heaven is releasing fire now. Divine resistance. Spiritual pushback. A wall of light is forming between your person and that interfering spirit. And soon, something will happen that forces the truth into the open. A moment where all pretenses fall, where even the most skilled manipulator can no longer hide their intent. God says, when that moment comes, you will feel it. A spiritual wave will pass through your chest. Your ears will ring. Your eyes may well with tears for no reason, because the final piece is shifting. The secret is being shattered, and destiny is realigning. But know this, your person is being watched closely by both heaven and darkness. Every move matters. Every word spoken now carries spiritual weight, and they feel it. That's why they're withdrawing from the noise. That's why they're suddenly quiet. Because their soul is searching for clarity, and clarity always precedes confession. Archangel Michael says, prepare your heart. What's coming is not just a message. It's a divine confrontation. The truth will surface. The third party will be exposed. And your person's next step will seal what comes next. This is not just romantic. This is divine war. And you are at the center of the battlefield. Somewhere near you, in a place you cannot see, their hand hovered near a doorknob today. They didn't knock, not yet, but their knuckles trembled inches from it. It wasn't just a physical door, it was symbolic. A doorway into healing, into truth, into home. And that door is yours. They stood outside something familiar. Maybe a location, a house, a memory. Their body felt heavy, their soul even heavier. Everything in them screamed for release, for reunion. But fear stood behind their ribs like a wall. What if you're not waiting? What if they're too late? And yet, they didn't walk away. God says their soul is beginning to defy their flesh. For so long, they have lived under the weight of logic, fear, and expectations. But I am breaking the limits now. I am stirring the courage of angels within them, and the door they're about to knock on will unlock not just conversation, but convergence. Last night's spiritual quake weakened something permanent in them. The mask, the coping, the games. They've been undone, and now they are raw. For the first time in months, or maybe even years, they are beginning to see you not just as someone from their past, but as the answer to what's missing in their future. Archangel Michael says their feet are moving, slowly, nervously, but forward. You are not stuck. They are not ignoring you. Something divine is pulling them into motion. And what they're bringing with them is heavy. Truth, tears, an apology, a confession, and something else too, a decision. Yes, your person has chosen. And even if they haven't spoken it aloud, the spiritual world already knows. Heaven has recorded it. The wind around you will shift before they speak. The signs will multiply. And you will know, because your spirit will begin to wake up from numbness and beat in rhythm again. But this journey isn't safe, because right now someone is following them. Not with footsteps, but with energy. That third party we spoke of, they're sensing the loss. Their grip is weakening, and they feel it. That's why interference is about to intensify. A final attempt, a desperate pull. God says, I will block every false detour. I will interrupt every distraction, for my child must reach their destiny. And I have written your name upon the doorway of their heart. Nothing forged in heaven can be stolen by hell. But your awareness must remain sharp, your discernment clear, because the enemy is loudest right before they're silenced. They're practicing what to say, over and over, in mirrors, in prayer, in silence. The words they plan to speak will feel like thunder wrapped in trembling. But they must be spoken, because if they aren't, this spiritual contract may remain unsigned. You see, love is not just felt, it must be declared. Archangel Michael says, your person has reached a fork. One road leads back to comfort and decay. The other leads to fire, healing, and divine reunion. The latter is risky. It will expose them, but they are leaning toward it. They are choosing vulnerability, and their soul is already in motion. Earlier today, something strange happened. A sign appeared. It may have been a name, a number, a song, a scent, something deeply connected to you. When it appeared, they stopped cold. It was as if the sky itself whispered, go now. Don't delay. And in that instant, the pull became unbearable. God says, I am guiding their steps now, and soon their fear will collapse under the weight of divine urgency. Their dreams are filled with you, not just as memory, but as prophecy. And even as the world pushes them in other directions, their heart is now a compass, and it points to only one place, your spirit. They may arrive quietly. They may not have the perfect words, but their presence will carry something sacred, evidence that even in silence, they never stopped loving you, that even in absence, they were searching for you, that even through betrayal, noise, confusion, it was always you. Archangel Michael says, when you see them again, do not look at the surface. Look into their eyes. That is where the truth has been hiding. That is where the child version of them still believes in you. And that is where their apology lives, not always spoken, but deeply known. God says, I am softening you now too. I am healing the parts of you that braced for disappointment. I am touching the scar tissue of your soul, preparing it for reunion. Because when they speak, your heart must be open. Not naive, not blind, but ready. Ready for what's holy. Ready for what's yours. And it is yours. They are yours. Not because of possession, but because of purpose. And the door they're about to knock on is more than wood and metal. It is the entrance into a chapter I've written long ago. And you are already standing on the other side. There will be no warning, no text to prepare you, no call ahead of time. Just the sudden shift, the stillness in the air, the pressure in your chest, the undeniable knowing that something is about to break. And then it happens, a knock, a message, a voice trembling on the edge of confession. The moment everything breaks open, Archangel Michael says, the spiritual veil is thinning. What has been hidden will be revealed. not just emotionally, but supernaturally. In the next hours or days, something powerful is set to collide with your life. This is not ordinary timing. This is heaven's precision. Angels aligning everything so your soul finally receives what it has wept for in silence. God says, your heart is being positioned to receive a flood. Not water, but truth. A torrent of unspoken things. Everything they couldn't say when they left. Everything they held back when pride was louder than love. Now it's rising, overflowing, breaking through the walls they built out of fear and shame. Your person is on the edge, not of despair, but of surrender. They've stopped fighting themselves, stopped pretending they've moved on. The image they painted for the world is fading fast, because inside them, something sacred cracked open, and the light of truth has been pouring in. It started slowly, but now it's unstoppable. They've cried. You need to know that. They cried yesterday and again today, in secret, with shaking hands, not just over guilt, but over realization. The realization that they hurt the one person who never deserved it. And no matter how they tried to bury that truth, it kept rising like fire in their lungs, until they couldn't breathe without thinking of you. God says, I am lifting the final layer now. The shame, the silence, the fear of rejection, and I am replacing it with courage, clarity, and confession. They are about to speak, not to impress you, but to release themselves. Because they now understand without truth, they cannot move forward. And without you, they are not complete. This won't come packaged neatly. Their voice may crack, their words may stumble, but listen closely. Underneath the surface, there's a vow forming, not just, I'm sorry, but I'm ready. Ready to show up, ready to rebuild, ready to become what they once feared they could never be. Yours, fully and faithfully. Archangel Michael says, this moment has been fought for. Hell tried to delay it. People tried to block it. Even your own heart has doubted it. But none of that matters now, because the divine clock has struck, and heaven is no longer asking. It is commanding restoration. There will be evidence. Watch for it. The conversation may begin strange, off topic, nervous, casual. But underneath, it will be pulsing with hidden urgency. Like they're trying to hold back an ocean, until finally they can't anymore. And that's when the truth will pour out. God says, I will guide every word. I will stand in the space between you, ensuring that what must be spoken will not be lost in fear. The apology will reach the deepest part of you, not just your ears, but the parts of your soul that never received closure. And I will pour healing over every scar that waited too long for justice. What they reveal may shock you. A betrayal, a truth they were too afraid to tell. A moment they could have changed everything but didn't. And yes, it may hurt. But know this, every truth released now is a stone removed from the wall that kept your union buried. This is not just reunion. This is resurrection. Archangel Michael says, your love was never ordinary. It was marked, fought for, chosen in spirit long before the physical world got involved. And now it is returning not in fragments, but whole, if you accept it, if you're ready. If you remember who you were when you first saw the divine light in their eyes, there will be a breaking, but it's a holy breaking. The walls will fall, the silence will die, the distance will be erased in seconds, and then something will pass between you both that cannot be explained. A pulse, a warmth, a spiritual fire that confirms this was never imagination. It was destiny. God says, you will not be left empty after all. The cries of your soul were heard in the unseen, and I did not delay out of cruelty. I delayed to perfect the moment, because restoration that is rushed will rot. But this is ripe. And the one who carries your healing, they are already on their way. Now, be still. Breathe in this holy moment. Let the sound of your heartbeat settle beneath the rhythm of heaven's breath. The sky above you is not silent. It is glowing with approval. Angels have already begun to fold their wings, knowing their task is nearly complete. The long wait is dissolving. The ache is softening. And the spirit of peace is descending upon your atmosphere like a healing breeze after a storm. You may feel tingling in your hands. You may feel warmth in your chest. That is not coincidence. That is confirmation. God has not forgotten you. You are not abandoned. Everything you walked through, the silence, the longing, the confusion, it was never in vain. Divine timing is now reaching its fullness, and what was lost will be restored, not just to how it was, but to how it was meant to be. Archangel Michael whispers, it is safe now, to hope, to open your heart again, to let the light in without fear that it will vanish. Because this time, it's not a flicker, it's a flame. This time, it's not a visit, it's a return. You are safe, you are seen, you are loved.